Welcome back to the Old Photo Vault channel. The Men in the Rigging, North Atlantic, 1912. The photograph was meant to show a moment of work, nothing more. Sailors balanced on the yard arms, their coats dark against the pale canvas, hands steady as they tied the lines. Someone joked that they looked like birds perched too high, and the camera caught them mid-laugh. Boots braced, faces turned into the wind. Later, when the print was developed, a shape appeared among them, just ahead of the others, faint and blurred, as if already moving away. It wore no cap, its face washed smooth by light, its feet not quite touching the sail. At first they blamed the sea spray or the long exposure. No one mentioned it again. The accident came hours later, sudden and ordinary. A torn line, a slip, the sound of bodies striking wood. When the photo was found again, someone noticed the shadow had been counting them, quietly, before the rope gave way. The light he used. Living room, Ohio. Late afternoon. The room looks ordinary enough in the photograph. The green couch sagging in the middle, the television left on without sound. The calendar still turned to the wrong month. Afternoon light slips through the curtains in a thin, bright line, catching dust in the air. My mother said the house always felt warmer at that hour, as if someone had just been sitting there. When the picture was printed, a figure appeared inside the light itself. Tall and familiar, shoulders rounded the way my father's always were after work. His face is soft, unfinished, but the posture is unmistakable. Paused as if he's about to sit down and ask what we've been watching. We argued over reflections, over glare, over wishful thinking. But every evening after that, the same chair cushion slowly sank, just before the sun reached the floor. The One Who Stayed Behind. Boarding House, New York, 1924. The photograph shows three women standing close together, hats tilted just right, their collars freshly pressed for the occasion. It was taken in the front room of a boarding house, the kind that smelled faintly of soap and boiled cabbage, where girls posed before leaving for new jobs or new lives. At first glance, nothing seems unusual. Then your eye drifts to the left edge of the frame. There is a fourth presence, thinner, blurred, as if she stood too still or not long enough. Her face is faint but attentive, watching the others with a patience that feels practiced. Family letters say there were 4 sisters that day, but one fell ill before the picture was taken and stayed upstairs. The others left the house within a week. The photograph was mailed home and anyway. Years later, when it was returned, someone noticed the shadow had not followed them. It was still waiting, right where she'd been left. The chair that wasn't empty. Beacon Hill Townhouse, Boston. Winter, 1911. The photograph was taken by an estate agent shortly after the Harrington family left the house, when Beacon Hill homes were changing hands quietly and servants were dismissed without ceremony. The room was staged to show refinement, imported wallpaper, a baby grand piano, chairs set as they had been for years. Mrs. Eleanor Harrington had died there the previous winter. Seated by the window during an afternoon rest she never woke from. The family refused to remove her chair before leaving, saying it felt improper. In the developed photograph, a pale shape rests in that same seat, narrow-shouldered, upright, as though waiting to be spoken to. It doesn't resemble her face, only her habit of sitting straight, hands folded patiently. Records say the house stood empty for months afterward. Yet neighbors complained of lights appearing at dusk, and the faint sound of piano keys pressed once, then released, as if someone were still keeping the room in order. The weight he left behind. Jesuit Garden, Italy, early 1900s. The photograph appears calm at first. A quiet garden, trimmed grass, trees holding still in the afternoon light. Father Giovanni Sala stands alone, his robe falling straight, a book pressed gently to his chest, as if he has paused mid-thought. He was known as a disciplined Jesuit scholar, a careful reader of Kant, a man who trusted reason more than spectacle. That is why the image unsettles. His feet do not meet the ground. A soft shadow rests beneath him, complete and patient, while his body hovers just above it. Those who shared the picture later spoke of mystical levitation, linking it to Saint Joseph of Cupertino and moments of ecstatic prayer. But Sala never wrote of visions. Letters describe him as reserved, inward, almost burdened by thought. After his death, the garden was kept unchanged for years. Visitors said the grass beneath that spot never grew quite right, as if something had once lifted itself away and forgotten how to come back down. The house that fed him, Suburban Home, California, 2018. I moved into the house with Mark Hollis, believing the rumors were exaggerated. The usual stories people invent about empty rooms and bad wiring. At first, it was small things. Food missing from the fridge, plates left on the floor in the morning, the smell of old oil hanging in the hallway. Mark said he didn't remember eating at night. Then I started finding him crouched in doorways, chewing whatever was closest, noodles, bread, once even dry pasta straight from the box. I took the photo the night he stared past me, eyes wide, mouth full, as if something else was guiding his hands. He kept whispering that the house was hungry, that it liked him best because he listened. After we left, the landlord called to ask why the shelves were scratched so low, like someone had been crawling. I didn't answer. I knew the house would eventually teach another man how to eat. The game she never finished. Mountain Cabin, Colorado, 2009. We used to play hide and seek in the cabin because it was quiet and felt safe. The kind of place where secrets stayed inside the walls. Emily always chose the same spot, slipping into the old wooden cupboard and pulling the door almost shut, leaving just enough space to breathe. I took the photo one afternoon to tease her, catching her eye through the crack as she smiled, finger pressed to her lips. I didn't notice anything else at first. Later, when I looked again, there was a face in the wood beside her. The outline of a man watching from the grain, mouth slightly open as if whispering directions. Emily stopped playing soon after. She said the cupboard answered her now, told her when to hide and when not to come out. The night we left, she asked me why the man was angry she'd been found. The room she still sleeps in. Rural boarding house, Louisiana, 1947. The photograph was taken years after the house was abandoned, when the floorboards had softened and the paint had turned the color of old water. The bed remained where it had always been, narrow and neatly made, as if someone expected to return before nightfall. A small lamp stood beside it, its cord brittle with age. When the image was developed, a woman appeared near the foot of the bed, pale and unfinished, her outline thin as breath against the air. Local records say a young woman named Clara May rented that room briefly, working evenings at the general store. One night, she never came home. Neighbors spoke in lowered voices of a robbery gone wrong, of footsteps running, of a scream cut short. No one was ever charged. In the photograph, Clara's face is turned toward the doorway, not frightened, just waiting. People who have slept there since say the bed dips gently before dawn, as if the room remembers exactly how she lay and refuses to let her leave. The seat that didn't cool. Country Road, Missouri. Autumn 1976. The car was pulled neatly to the shoulder, engine quiet, as if the driver had simply stepped away. Through the glass, the upholstery looked worn but carefully kept. The pattern rubbed thin where someone always sat. I remember thinking it was strange how the seat dipped, shaped by a body that should have been gone. The sheriff said the man had died suddenly, hands still on the wheel, no struggle, no sound anyone heard. They towed the car at dusk. Weeks later, the yard where it was stored smelled faintly of heat and old fabric. When I photographed it, the driver's seat held a soft impression, darker than the rest, as though someone had just leaned forward to start the engine. Mechanics swore that spots stayed warm until morning. No one liked opening the door. It felt rude, interrupting a man who hadn't finished going home. The last photograph. Woodland Road, England, 1917. They stepped out for air, that was all. A short walk before supper, while the light still held. The path was narrow and familiar, hedges trimmed low, leaves quiet underfoot. Someone lifted the camera because the moment felt complete enough to keep. In the picture, they are arranged without intention. The older woman steady at the left, the younger woman upright and composed. The man already a half step ahead, smiling as if called from just beyond the frame. Nothing appears wrong until you notice how the road seems to thin behind them, how the trees lean inward, closing the space they've passed through. The photograph was found weeks later among returned effects, the date written carefully on the back. No one remembers who pressed the shutter. The path still exists. But locals say it ends sooner now, as if it learned where to stop once it learned who would not be coming back. The arm that knocked back. Bedroom hallway, Oregon, 2013. The room looked ordinary when I took the photo. Still messy from the morning, the mirror tilted the way it always was. The door was closed most days because it stuck, swollen from years of damp winters, and you had to pull it hard to open. That afternoon, it moved on its own, just enough to let light spill across the floor. I raised my phone without thinking. In the picture, an arm reaches through the gap, bare and patient, resting on the floor as if testing whether it was safe to come in. There was no sound, no weight against the door, only that quiet reach. The house had once belonged to a woman who died alone there, neighbors said. Found days later when the smell finally escaped the rooms. After the photo, the door began knocking back when I leaned against it at night. Not loud, just enough to remind me that something on the other side still wanted to be let through. The curtain she held. Apartment living room, Chicago, 1974. The photograph begins as a polite moment, the kind meant to be kept in an album and forgotten. A young woman stands by the curtains, one hand lifted as if she has just checked the street below. The lamp is off. The guitar leans patiently against the wall, and the room holds its breath the way rooms do before evening settles in. She looks composed, almost formal, dressed as if she might be leaving soon or waiting for someone who said they would call. Nothing in the frame asks for attention, asks for. It takes time to notice the second figure. Near the armchair, faint and incomplete, there is the outline of someone seated where no one remembers sitting. The shape is thinner than the chair allows, its edges blurred, as though it learned the room by watching rather than living in it. Friends said the apartment had belonged to another woman before, someone who never finished moving out, someone whose name stayed on the mailbox for months after she was gone. The chairs, they refused to sit in. Rural parlor, Eastern Europe, 1936. The photograph was taken in a small house just before evening prayers, when the light was already thinning and the stove had begun to cool. Two women stand behind the chairs instead of sitting, hands folded carefully, faces composed the way people were taught to be when a camera was present. The chairs were new, brought in that winter, their pale wood still clean against the dark room. Nothing about the scene feels hurried. It looks like preparation, not an ending. Only later does the unease settle in. The chairs appear brighter than they should, as if the light has chosen them. The women themselves are slightly blurred, especially the younger one, her outline fading into the wall behind her. Family stories say the sisters were waiting that night for their husbands to return from town. They never did. War followed soon after, and the house emptied without ceremony. When the photograph was found years later, someone noticed the chairs had been worn down, as if used daily, despite the rooms standing locked and untouched. Neighbors claimed that at dusk, two figures could still be seen standing behind them, patient and upright, waiting for permission to sit, waiting for the moment they were promised but never reached. The one who didn't leave. Old Churchyard, New England, late spring. The photograph was taken to remember the tree, not the graves. Its branches were heavy with pale blossoms, and the path beneath it was swept clean every Sunday by whoever still felt responsible. I stood still long enough for the light to settle, thinking of nothing more than how quiet the night had become. Later, when the image was developed, there was a figure where the path bends, small and upright, hands folded as if taught. She does not blur like a passerby. She does not lean like a trick of shadow. She stands as if the ground knows her weight. The church ledger lists a burial that spring without a name. A child brought by neighbors after a fever. Her family already gone west. No stone was ordered. No flowers were marked as belonging to anyone. In the picture, she faces the path instead of the graves, watching for a familiar shape that never arrives. Those who walk there now say the blossoms fall early in that corner, petals gathering around her feet. By morning, they are gone again, carefully cleared, as if someone is still keeping the place ready, just in case the promise is kept. The mirror that wouldn't forget him. Bedroom, Northern England. Winter, 2019. The photograph looks harmless at first. The kind taken on impulse, laughter still in the air. Two friends pose in the bedroom, the mirror catching the room exactly as it is. The wardrobe doors closed, the bed slightly rumpled, ivy tracing the ceiling like a careless decoration. Nothing suggests danger. The flash goes off, the moment passes, and no one thinks about it again until the picture is opened later that night. That is when the mirror feels deeper than it should be. Behind the reflection of the girl nearest the glass, there is another face, older, heavier, pressed close as if the mirror itself is breathing him out. He doesn't belong to the room. His eyes are calm, almost satisfied. The expression of someone who knows he cannot be seen unless he wants to be. Neighbors later spoke of a man arrested years earlier in the same building. A violent presence who died before his sentence was carried out. After the photo, the mirror began to cloud from the inside, fingerprints appearing where no hands touched. They tried covering it, turning it to the wall. Each morning, it faced the room again, patiently remembering the face it was never meant to hold. The joke that looked back. Abandoned house, southern Poland. Autumn 2011. We came to the house late. The kind of visit meant to end in laughter and blurry photos. The place was empty, stripped down to bare walls and dust, perfect for pretending nothing could happen there anymore. Marek dropped to the floor and crawled toward us, growling, his face twisted on purpose. I snapped the picture right as someone slammed the door behind him, all of us laughing too loud to hear how wrong it sounded. I didn't see it until later. On the wooden door, where the paint had peeled into soft, uneven shapes, there was a face that hadn't been there before. The eyes were set too high, the mouth too narrow, pressed into the grain as if the wood had learned how to remember someone. It wasn't fear I felt at first, just embarrassment. The sense that we'd interrupted something private. The local caretaker told us the house once belonged to a man who locked himself inside after his family left. He wasn't found until weeks later, slumped against that same door. After the photo, the joke stopped. Marek said the door creaked all night in his dreams, not opening, not closing, just breathing, like it was waiting for another punchline. The passenger who never got out. Suburban driveway, California, summer 1968. The photograph was taken to celebrate the car. That was the excuse anyway. A new purchase, freshly washed, parked carefully in front of the garage like something that might change their lives. They stand close together, the woman holding her purse with both hands, the man's palm resting lightly on the hood as if to claim it. The night is warm, ordinary, full of plans that don't need saying out loud. It takes a while to notice what's wrong. Inside the car, behind the windshield, there is a third presence, pale and incomplete, seated where no one remembers sitting. The face is faint but attentive, turned slightly toward the couple, as if listening. At first, they blamed reflections, streetlights, anything convenient. But the previous owner's name still turned up in old registration papers, crossed out once, then written again, then finally removed after a sudden death on the highway weeks before the sale. After the photo, the car never felt empty. The passenger door unlocked itself. The seatbelt clicked softly at night. They sold the car within a year, but the picture remained. No matter how it was cropped, the passenger stayed right where the road had left him. The hand that didn't belong. Living room party, Midwest, 1965. The photograph was supposed to be harmless. A loud evening folded into color and laughter. Music played too loudly, cups sweated onto the table, and the rug was dragged aside to make room for a game no one took seriously. Someone bent forward laughing. Someone else tried to keep balance. And the camera caught the moment when everything felt loose and safe. It took years before anyone looked closely at the left side of the frame. There, just inside the edge, is a hand resting where no body stands. It isn't blurred like movement, and it doesn't match the angle of anyone nearby. The fingers curl slightly, relaxed, as if they've been there for a while. People argued it was a trick of timing, an arm cropped away by chance, but no one at the party remembered standing there, and no sleeve ever matched the shape. The house had a history that rarely came up. Before the parties, before the new carpet, it belonged to an older man who lived alone and rarely entertained. After his death, the room was emptied quickly, as if touch itself had become uncomfortable. In the photograph, the hand isn't reaching or grabbing. It's only resting, patient, as though it never learned the game was over and everyone had already gone home. The shadow that walked ahead. Apartment hallway, London, 1982. The photograph was taken quickly, just to capture the dress before the night ruined it. She stands in the hallway with her shoulders back, hands relaxed, the soft pink fabric catching the light in a way that made her look older than she felt. The corridor behind her is narrow and familiar, the kind of place you walk through without thinking, counting doors by habit. Nothing about the moment seemed worth remembering. It was the shadow that ruined that certainty. On the wall beside her, a darker shape leans forward, head bowed, shoulders sloped as if mid-step. It doesn't match her posture. It doesn't match the light. It looks like someone walking just ahead of her, already turning the corner she hasn't reached yet. At first, they said it was a trick of the flash, a second light source, anything technical and clean. But the building records told a quieter story. A woman who fell in that hallway years earlier, rushing, late, dressed for an evening that never happened. After the photo, she said she felt impatient for no reason, as if something was always slightly ahead of her, setting the pace. The shadow never appeared again. It didn't need to. It had already shown her where she was going. The guest who wasn't invited. Dining room, Midwest. Early evening. The photograph was taken at the end of an ordinary dinner. Plates were half finished, conversation thinning into the quiet comfort of routine. The father checked his phone. The mother leaned back slightly. The child stared down at his place setting, tired in the way children get when the day has gone on too long. Nothing about the moment felt special enough to keep. But someone took the picture anyway, just in case. It wasn't until later that the reflection was noticed. In the glass behind them, between the familiar shapes of chairs and cabinets, there is another figure seated at the table. The posture is wrong, too upright, the head angled as if listening closely. No one remembered that chair being pulled out. No extra plate was washed. When they compared reflections, the figure did not match any of them. Neither age, nor shape, nor position. The house had belonged to the man's parents before, and before that to someone else whose name never came up at dinner. After the photo, the family began setting an extra napkin without speaking about it. By morning, it was always neatly folded again, as if someone had stayed late, waiting for the conversation to return. And maybe that is the most unsettling part. Not what we see in these photographs, but what quietly remains when no one is supposed to be there. These images don't prove anything. They don't need to. They simply leave a question behind, waiting for whoever is brave enough to look twice. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you see in these photos? A trick of light, a reflection, a coincidence, or something that doesn't quite belong? Tell us in the comments what details stayed with you the longest. If you're drawn to these quiet mysteries hidden inside ordinary moments, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. There are many more images waiting to be revisited. Because the next time you look back at an old photograph, you may realize something has been looking back at you all along.